Okay, so what we're going to do now is take a look at how to work with local with parent target space, local with parent owner space. We're going to take a look at local with parent owner space first. Go ahead and turn off the rotation constraint. Click on this bone, do Alt R and G to reset the rotation and location. Going to click on this bone, do Alt R and G to reset the rotation and location. Go ahead and zoom in a bit, do Shift middle mouse button so you can see the center of the 3D grid and both of these bones. Now here we're going to switch the 3D manipulator to global and switch this to edit mode. Doesn't matter which bone you select. Here notice that the 3D manipulator is aligning itself to the global coordinate system represented by this grid. So here you could say that the 3D manipulator is using world space. Now when we switch this to local, the 3D manipulator is going to align itself to the axis displayed on the armature. Here we're going to switch to object mode to see this. So here you could say that when we click on the body of this bone and switch this to local in edit mode, this is pose space. Now go ahead and zoom in and shift middle mouse button and you're going to rotate the view like this. Now if we want the 3D manipulator to align itself to the axis that is being displayed on this tail, we have to switch to normal. Now we know where this is coming from. It's coming from the bone itself. So if we go to the data tab and click on a stick, you can see that the y-axis on this 3D manipulator will always be aligned to the body of this bone, or the edge, because a bone is simply two vertices and an edge. Go ahead and switch back to octahedral. Now, the axis that is being displayed on the tail of this bone represents the local coordinate system that this bone is going to use when you switch it to pose mode. Okay? Now, it doesn't matter if you click on the tail of this bone and press the G key to move it, click on the head of this bone to press the G key to move it, click on the body of this bone and press the R key to rotate it. However you park this bone, whatever is shown on the tail of this bone will become the local coordinate system that this bone will use in pose mode. I'm going to do Ctrl Z to undo this until the bone goes back. Now go ahead and click on the body of this bone and switch to pose mode. So this axis that we put over here is a visual representation of the local coordinate system that this bone is using, which is coming from the bone itself in edit mode. Okay, now when we are working with the bones, we are really just talking about the head of this bone. So when we change the location of this bone or rotate the bone, we're still always working with the head. Now over here, when we change the location values on the x-axis, you will notice that the bone only moves along its x, moves along its z, and moves along its y. Okay, do Alt G to reset the location. Now press the R key 2 times and just rotate the bone kind of like this over here. Now when we change the location values of this bone again, it will still move along the x, it will move along the z, and again it will move along the y. Now if we want to change the location of this bone according to the axis that is being displayed on the tail, we have to switch this to local. Now all we can do is simply just click on the 3D manipulator's green arrow, red arrow, and a blue arrow. These values over here are only going to move along the x and z according to the local coordinate system. Do Alt G to reset the location. Now if we want to rotate this bone on its head according to what is being displayed on the tail, again we just need to make sure that we are in local. So if we press the R key, press the Y key 2 times, we get to rotate around the Y, X, and Z. Now if we want to rotate this bone according to the axis that is being displayed on its local coordinate system, we have no other choice but to create a custom orientation, which we already did. So here we're going to switch to bone local edit. Now, when we press the R key, press the Y key 2 times, we are rotating according to the local coordinate system on the X and on the Z. The reason I'm showing this to you is because this is going to become important to understand how this idea of the constraints work between bones. It's really just a one-to-one match, right? Because this is the only way this bone knows how to operate inside the 3D view. Okay, so we're going to do Alt-R to reset the rotation and Alt-G to reset the location. We're going to do Shift middle mouse button to pan over here. Now, of course, this bone is going to do exactly the same thing, right? Because we have the constraint off. So if we change the X value on this bone, it's going to move along its X, going to move along its Z, right? And of course, if we press the R key to rotate, it's the same behavior. Press the R key, press the Y key. Actually, we have to switch this to local, press the R key, press the Y key. Okay, so that makes sense. I'm going to do Alt-R and G. Okay, so now what we want to understand is that, okay, what we're going to do is actually first turn this off, and we're going to go back to the copy location. Over here, just copy the location of the armature, do bone.001, make sure that this is local. Okay, and over here, I want you to make sure that this is world and make sure that you click on offset. We're doing this so we can see how this bone operates. Now press the 7 key to go to your top view. We have to do this because we want to move this bone. Okay, so now when we move this bone along its X value, right, if we change it, you'll see that this bone still moves along its X and Z. If we change this to pose, when we change X, it will move along X and Z. So it's still using its local coordinate system. When we switch this to local, move along X and Z. So all of this makes sense. Now, what I'm going to show you is going to seem a bit strange here, and it takes a bit of understanding to get your mind around this. Over here, when we force the owner to be local with parent, what Blender is going to do is basically dump this axis and give this bone a brand new axis that will be positioned exactly where the armature is. So now if we change the X value over here, you'll notice that the bone moves along the X-axis according to pose space, or on Y, and of course if we do the middle mouse button, when we do Z, it moves up and down. Okay, we're going to do Alt-G to reset this. Now, when we press the R key, right now I'm just going to show you, it's going to go all over the place. We're going to actually understand what this is about. Okay, so you understand how this concept works. Okay, so I want you to just go ahead and remove this, turn this on. Now make sure that when you click on this one, you do Alt-R and G, click on this one, do Alt-R and G. Now here we're going to click on copy rotation. We're going to do local space and do the same thing. We're going to do world space, press the 7 key to go to the top view. Now here we're just going to change the location. Again, change the X, moves along the X, moves along the Z. Here we're going to choose pose space, moves along the X, and moves along the Z. Local space should also do the same thing. Moves along X, and now moves along Z. I'm going to do Alt-G to reset the location. Now you'll notice that when we do this local with parent, it's going to do the same exact thing, right? It's going to now move along the pose space X, pose space Y, and of course pose space Z. We're going to do Alt-G to reset the location. Now the question is going to be, okay, well, what happens when we click on this bone and make sure that this is in local space first? If we rotate this bone around its y-axis that is being displayed on the tail, press the R key, press the Y key, you will notice that that bone is rotating really around the origin point of the armature right now, right? But it's rotating around its y-axis. You can see this a bit better from this view. Okay, now when we press the R key, press the Z key, rotate around its Z, you'll notice that it's rotating around that Z. Press the R key, press the X key. Now when we rotate around X, it basically seems to be behaving normally. So we're going to understand what is going on over here. So now, again, as I said, this is going to seem a bit strange, okay? So what we want to do is go ahead and first, let's click on this bone and switch to object mode. We have to do Shift S and do cursor to select it. Now, go ahead and switch back to pose mode, press the 7 key. So what we need to do is see what that axis looks like that belongs to this bone. It's obviously going to be the same axis that is pose space because it's aligned to the armature. Anyway, just do Shift D to duplicate it. Click this over here, press the S key to scale this a bit. Do Shift S and you're going to do selection to cursor. Now you have to press the Shift key down and click on this about. Okay, we're going to do Control P and just make this axis the child of this bone so we can see how this is working. Now this is going to start make a lot more sense what's actually going on. First, I want you to click on this. Press the R key 2 times, rotate it. Now you'll see that what was actually going on. It seemed like the bone was moving in a really weird way, but this is what's actually going on. It's stuck to this axis in this strange way. Okay, that's the first thing. Now right click to cancel. Now press the R key, press the Y key, and rotate this. You'll see that it rotates around the Y and park it like this. Now if you press the R key, press the Z key, rotate this bone along the Z axis that is being displayed on this tail, you'll notice that that bone rotates around the Z. Now same thing for X, right? That's what's going on. Now here's a very interesting thing. Press the R key, press the Y key, and make sure that you kind of position it over here so this Z axis that's coming from the armature is going through this bone. Now how do we rotate this bone on the axis that's being displayed over here? Well, we have to use its local coordinate system, right? So here, when we click on this bone, we have to move to bone local edit. So now notice that when we press the R key, press the Z key to rotate this bone around Z, that bone is now going to rotate around the Z that is being displayed on the armature, okay? Now press the R key, press the Y key 2 times. That will just rotate around Y, and of course press the R key, press the X key 2 times. That bone is now going to rotate around the X, meaning the axis that is being displayed on the armature. So that's the first part of the story over here. Now what we need to do is click on this and do Alt R to reset the rotation. We're going to go ahead and click on this. This is the axis that we made the child of this bone. We have to do, we're just going to do Shift D to duplicate it and remove this from here. Okay, now what we're going to do is press the S key to scale this. Actually, I'm just going to scale it down quite a bit over here. So what we need to do is tell this axis to copy the location of this guy over here. This is the axis that is the child of this bone. Okay, so we're going to go over here, go to the constraints tab, do copy. Let's do copy location, and over here we're going to just copy this one. Okay, now the reason I did this is because I want you to see that when you click over here, this is difficult to do. Okay, here we're going to move this bone on the Y. Notice that when we move this bone on the Y to move it over here, let's move this on the X to move it over here. Now notice what happens when we click on this bone, and make sure that you have to switch back to local. Now press the R key, press the Y key 2 times. Notice that how this bone is rotating. So you can see that wherever this bone rotates, it's rotating right here, and it also takes along with it this axis, right? So if we go ahead and click over here, press the R key, press the Y key, and just do the same thing. Now if we want to rotate over here around a bone local edit, press the R key, press the Z key 2 times. You'll notice that it does the same thing. So I just want you to be aware of how this concept is working. It's not something that's happening randomly, right? Without these 2 concepts, without exposing them, that's what it actually looks like. Anyways, click on this, do Alt R and G, and click on this, do Alt R and G. Now what I want to show you is that, okay, well, what happens when we give this bone a parent? Really nothing much is going to change. It's still going to behave the same way. So we're going to go to edit mode, click on this, do shift D to duplicate it, press the S key to scale. I'm just going to press the 7 key to go to the top view, press the G key to move it over here, and I guess I'll just do Alt R to reset the bone roll. It doesn't mean anything, I'm just doing it this way. Now click on the body, press the shift key down, click on this one, do Control P, and do keep offset. Now here we're going to choose pose mode. Of course we have to click on this bone and go to the constraints tab and remove this because we duplicated it. Now first what I want you to do is click this and turn off the rotation, because you already know how the parent-child relationship concept is going to work. If you press the R key, the bone will go wherever this goes. Okay, now go ahead and click this and turn this on. Now we're constraining the rotation, so it's going to behave a bit weirdly over here, right? You'll notice that it moves in this strange way. It doesn't matter how this is moving. What I want you to see is that when we are changing its rotation, let's say kind of like this, move it like this, okay, where this ends up, this bone still will behave the same way. So meaning that if we click over here, make sure that you have to switch this to local, press the R key, press the Y key. See, it still behaves the same way. And over here, if we switch this to bone local edit, press the R key, press the Z key, it still behaves the same way. So I know that this is quite complex, but you might find some sort of use for this idea over here. Okay, so anyways, what we're going to do is actually do Alt R to reset the rotation on this, do Alt R and G, click on this, do Alt R and G. And let's go ahead, I'm just going to put it like this over here. Let's go ahead and do File, Save As, and we're going to save this as Bone Concepts 12.blend. Now over here, what I want you to do is switch to Edit Mode, and of course click on this, do Shift D, duplicate it, press the S key to scale, press the 7 key, press the G key to move this over here, do Alt R, we'll just reset the roll, doesn't really matter. Now click on this one, press the Shift key down, click on this one, do Control P, and you're going to do Keep Offset. Now here we're going to switch to pose mode. So this bone now is the parent of that bone. Okay. Now click over here. Now over here we're going to, again, we're just doing local space, and right now we're just going to switch to local space. Okay, we're not interested in local with parent. What I do want you to see over here is that when we click on this bone and press the R key, this bone is not going to rotate, right? Because you understand how this works. There's no rotations coming from this bone. Okay. Now, if we click on this bone and do local with parent, click over here and press the R key, then you will see that that bone is going to rotate. Okay. So why does it do that? Well, what we're going to do is first switch to local space over here. What we need to do is actually, we're going to have to pick this up in the next lesson because I'm going to explain to you a few additional things over here. So just do File and Save, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Thank you.